Now call this special meeting of the Jacksonville City Council to order. Council, you see that we have an agenda. It should be at your places there. And on the I legislate for one item. This is non-consent. It's the YMCA Pool Memorandum of Understanding and Grant Agreement. And at this time, I would entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved. Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. At this time, I'll turn it over to the city manager to give us a presentation on this.
Thank you, Mayor. We have one item on the agenda this morning. It is the YMCA Pools Memorandum of Understanding. We have it as the grant agreement as well, but what we're considering is the Memorandum of Understanding between the YMCA, the city, the county, and the Board of Education. That's the document we're looking at. We've included the grant agreement in because that's the document we will move forward as the project progresses. So what you'll see here, I'm using some of the slides that Mr. Sewell gave us before. So they are tried, true, and tested, and they've been checked for validity, and they look fantastic. So we're very excited to see this project here presented before the council. You'll see this is the proposed look for what the facility is going to look like. The site you see on the screen is the overhead view of the property as it currently exists. You'll see the parking lot. You'll see the old River of Life facility. This project is off of Gum Branch Road. Here you're going to see the proposed new facility, which adds on to the existing site, gives us the natatorium, I believe that's the word, and then this is the breakdown in theory of what the final project's going to look like on the inside. You see the meeting spaces, you see some areas on the outside, and then you see the two swimming pool structures, one being a lap pool, the other having some lanes, an area for therapy pool, and then some open play or Havel that's used through programming. This is an excellent side view of what we think the whole area is going to look like. There's a lot of things that come into play with the project in that community. As it sits now, the building has minimal use, and so you don't see this life and the vibrancy happening the way that this plan will bring it all together. Right here, this shows out the proposed size of the competition pool, proposed size of the recreational, instructional, and therapy pool, and then the total building, as it sits now, approximately 21,780 square feet. All this can change as they get into final plans, but this is the plan that we're looking at now. Multiple partners will be involved in not only the construction, but in the day-to-day operations of the facility. This is the general estimate that we've seen before that this council saw and then gave us the go-ahead to move forward in the process as Mr. Carter was given instruction to work with partners to put together the MOU and the agreement. And that's the process where we're at right now. Here's the changes that we've seen. So together, you're looking at the Memorandum of Understanding today. What the MOU says is that the city intends to contribute $3 million over the next 2 fiscal years, so FY24 and FY25, roughly $1.5 million a year to go towards this project. Recently, the County Commission approved the MOU with a 4-3 vote, so that passes through. Last night, the Board of Education considered the item, but basically they held a public hearing. What we know is that they're planning to consider the MOU at their regularly scheduled July 10th meeting. So the MOU is contingent upon all the parties contributing. City, county, Board of Education, State of North Carolina. If council approves this MOU this morning and one of those parties chooses to not approve the agreement, then we'll come back to the council to discuss the item again. So if you're worried about any action by the other two entities, what we're asking you today is to consider the MOU that says if we're all in, we're all in. If someone's not in, then we're not in. Just want to point that out. This section here are the changes. We've included in your packet the document, the MOU that the county approved, and then we included in the MOU that we're asking you to consider. The grant agreement, there are some changes that we've been working on. In the end, our goal is that all the entities will approve the same grant agreement. That's our goal. We can approve different grant agreement documents, but in our discussions, Mr. Carter, myself, and the county, we want to see these things being aligned. You'll see in Section 4 of the document that we're proposing that Jacksonville Recreation and Parks have usage built into the program. Mr. Sewell mentioned this the last time when he spoke to council during our public comment section. And also you'll see Jacksonville Fire and Emergency Services training opportunities included in that agreement on Section 4. As you go down to Section 8, we increased the general liability insurance requirements based on our discussion with the League of Municipalities, that's who carries our insurance, to $2 million for a single incident, $4 million for a aggregate liability insurance. Down to Section 22, this comment's been made throughout by members of the County Commission. It was made at the school board meeting last night. Mr. Sewell stated this, but Section 22 states that the city's not responsible for operational or maintenance costs. Those day-to-day costs, those will be held by the agency being the YMCA. So that's Section 22. And then Section 23, we've got a slight change to that, and I brought this into the agreement based on discussions with Mr. Wangren and Mr. Sewell. It states that the YMCA will handle their capital outlay. However, if there are items that, as we've discussed before, that are outside of their abilities to handle internally based on their revenues and expenditures, they'll bring those requests back to the city council through our process. In August, we're going to talk to city council about firming up our funding request procedure. So this section states that should these items occur, the YMCA, maybe Jane brings that to us, presents and says, we have this item we would like to consider, we'd like the city council to consider, as well as our other partners. Our thought is the capital items will be split based on the formula that we put together moving forward. Our hope is we don't have any large capital items for 10, 12 years down the road. We feel confident that the maintenance will happen. Mr. Wangren has pointed out that there could be a team put together, an advisory board that works on day-to-day maintenance, and that we could have some input on that. But the challenge is when those capital issues come, then they'll have to be considered at that point in time in history. Mayor, that's the document. Those are the changes that we've made that we're presenting to council. I'm here to answer any questions if you need me.
Are we going to have a workshop at some point in time after complete review of the contract or the grant agreement?
Yes, sir. What we would do, Mayor, is we would like to pull in the partners together and go through it again. Right now, think about the process where the city, county, and school board attorney have worked together to give us a good document. We still want to bring it back together before final approval for the grant agreement for all entities.
Well, I want to commend all three attorneys for all the hard work that they've done on this. They've been really working diligently to come up with something that's going to work for all of us, for the city, for the county, and for the school board. So my sincere commendations to them for the work they've done.
I believe Mr. Carter did all the heavy lifting, Mayor, so I'm not sure if the others had anything to do with it, but we'll pass along that.
Well, I can attest to what he's done. I mean, anybody else comments?
I'd just like to commend the Y for picking up the project in the first place and taking the initiative to pull partners together. It's been pretty clear, I believe it's been stated before, but, a pool is a lost lead. It's always a dollar suck on any organization that tries to operate one. It just takes money. I think it's important for the public to know that whether the pool was owned and operated by a government entity or a private entity, fees would be involved because that's necessary to cover operational costs and the maintenance costs. Some of these things that we've been looking at, I did not know that a heater for a swimming pool could cost $500,000, and that has to be replaced all at once. Those are the kinds of things the public may not know. It's also important to note that, the city would not have the desire to open a public pool and accept all of the operational costs, all of the financial responsibility, and the liability if anyone is injured or killed at the facility. So it wouldn't have happened if it was left up to the city. It wouldn't have happened if it was left up to the county. The only way this was going to happen was a public-private partnership with a nonprofit who was willing to take the operational maintenance liability and weight. So kudos to the Y for stepping up to be the piece that kind of brought all the partners together to make this possible. Our citizens tell us they want a pool, but they wouldn't want to pay for one, trust me. So this is a great way for us to get a pool for essentially 20% of the cost if any one entity tried to do it alone. So kudos, thank you. We're happy to be partners here.
Mayor, I'll add, I put this on the staff summary and I apologize for not adding that. Back to what Ms. Edwards said, Mr. Sewell pointed out that the city of Wilmington has a partnership, an active partnership with the YMCA there, and that's similar to what Ms. Edwards said. The city of Wilmington built their pools, they own their pools, and now they partner with the YMCA to maintain and operate that. And I think Mr. Sewell pointed that out. It's $109,000 in FY23. It's $113,000 for FY24. So that partner takes over the operations and the maintenance of those facilities, but it still is a city-owned facility. So there's a challenge there in terms of having to do the long-term cost. If it comes out that they need to do an improvement to the facility, or let's say they have to redo the liner, they basically have to rebuild those facilities. So exactly what you're saying. For us, it gives us the opportunity to really test our partnerships throughout the community and say, are we partners with other organizations? I think it's spot on.
I think one of the big things too, the one problem that I had struggling with this whole thing at the onset was the liability that the city would incur, by ownership of a pool. And I think this greatly reduces the possibility of that liability. I would say so, wouldn't you, Mr. Carter?
Yes, sir. Yeah. I'm trying to get the manager's attention because I believe we have a written statement from Mr. Jackson that we've just received that he wanted to be read into the record, sir.
Okay.
Just got it.
Okay. Are you good with this, Mayor?
Go right ahead.
Okay, so this is from, it's from Mr. Jackson, and he sent this morning. Since he could not be here, he's had another engagement, and he asked us to read it. Good morning to the residents of Jacksonville. Today's decision whether to devote City of Jacksonville funds to the sum of $3 million, like most others involving spending large sums of money, will be one to impact generations beyond the number of days that I have left on this earth. I am disturbed first that I cannot be here with you due to a previous engagement that I have, which impacts military communities such as ours on the state level. When there are votes of this magnitude that should be cast, the schedule of all members should be important. We have a facility that we can open at midnight if it is necessary to make it convenient for all members. Remember, we have the keys to do so. More importantly, as an elected body, we are representatives of the people of Jacksonville. As it was mentioned by Commissioner Knapp in his reservations concerning taking a vote at the last county commissioners meeting, he is for a pool, but he is for the citizens having a say about how their tax dollars are going to be spent to build one. Again, we have the keys. As this meeting is being held this morning, we have been able to held at another time for our citizens. I spoke to a member of the Board of Education about the shortcomings and shortfalls that are plaguing our older schools. Not enough teachers because there's not enough pay. Our newer schools are even beginning to burst at the seams. Many of these issues come from federal and state mandates, but most fall on us here in this county. We must figure out a better way to continue to support and improve our public schools. I agonize over what happened in Town Center and how a minimal amount of funds was used to support the over 300 families that were living in terrible conditions. Though no government entity should get in the middle of non-governmental business when non-governmental business impacts our city and especially our most vulnerable populations, then we must get involved. Please hold. Do you have another screenshot, Ms. City Clerk? That's the end of it? Okay, that's the end.
Thank you very much. Council, other questions or concerns you want to address?
Just not a concern, but really a comment. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Sewell and his leadership team for following up on this project from its idea as asset to the community. I don't think we'd be here talking about this agreement were it not for his leadership, and certainly he follows in the footsteps of his father, who was one of the leaders of this community, a member of the Board of Transportation, and added other items of improvement to the citizens of Jacksonville. So thank him for his leadership, and I'm all prepared to vote yes on this agreement.
Thank you. Logan, you had?
I'm just glad to see it done. I mean, like Mr. Sewell said before about, young kids, I mean, we had to take our kid out of Jacksonville to get swim lessons. So the fact that they'll have that opportunity to do that here in the future and, for years to come is be greatly appreciated. So thank you all for all the hard work and leadership everyone has put into this project.
I have a statement to make. With our prior leadership that we had here with Dr. Woodruff, it must have been around 2013, 2014. I approached Dr. Woodruff and Tim Chestnut, who was the Director of Parks and Recreation at that time, to propose a 4-cent tax increase for the city of Jacksonville residents at that time to look at establishing a city pool in the New River area to kind of like bring that area back to life. It was a very central location in which many of our citizens could take part of. I would agree with Mr. Sewell when he talked about having to take his son to Carteret just to do swimming lessons. Being a resident of the city of Jacksonville and having graduated from Jacksonville Senior High School, the first time I took a swim lesson was when I went to East Carolina University. I was a freshman because part of my PE credit was that you had to take PE. Part of the PE requirement was that if you knew how to swim, you could take a swim test and test out, and then subsequently take another PE credit. Unfortunately, that did not happen for me. So for 15 weeks, fall semester, I had to take a PE class. Wasn't happy about it, but it was my first exposure. However, I do have just a couple of questions that I wanted to ask. Now, with this partnership, we're talking about Onslow County, we're talking about school board, and we're talking about the city of Jacksonville. And for all intents and purposes, we currently have 7 municipalities in the county. Is that correct? Including the city of Jacksonville. So right now, with the allocations of funding, $3 million coming from the county, $3 million coming from the school board, $3 million coming from the city of Jacksonville. Jacksonville residents, because we are county affiliate, we are already paying into the county's $3 million and the school board's $3 million because of the sheer nature that we are residents. So our taxpayers' money are already set aside in those 3 departments. So why would it be an investment for the city of Jacksonville to put in an additional $3 million when the other 6 municipalities are not putting in additional fundings?
Mayor, if I may, I'm not sure of the dialogue with the other municipalities. On our side, that's why we've included a different set of deliverables that Mr. Sewell talked about the last meeting. We have not only for our Parks and Recreation programming, but those allocations. At one point, we had talked about the opportunity for our citizens to utilize the 3 free hours a week that the county agreement has, and then to try and duplicate that and say that our citizens get additional time. Part of that concern is, as it's great for our citizens, but part of that concern is, how does the YMCA operate utilizing revenues if operations for 24 hours are free? So in turning into our Parks and Recreation programming, that allows us additional opportunities outside of the other municipalities. And the reason that the agreement is set for 99 years is so that we can see a return on our investment, because the facility will be located in city of Jacksonville. I do agree that the other municipalities at some point should become partners. I think that's a good asset, and I think it's something I hope that they join in when given the opportunity. But at this point, the discussion, most of our discussion occurred because it's in Jacksonville and because it's in the county.
My next question would be, if I am a current resident of Sneeze Ferry, Bridgelands, Swansboro, Holly Ridge, North Topsail, Surf City, I think I covered them all. As a county resident, am I not entitled to use the swimming pool?
Yes, ma'am.
So as a county resident, I can use the pool because my county taxes are paying for the pool. But for our city residents, we're asked to put twice in this kitty as opposed to the county residents who are only placing one.
You're correct. So, Mayor, the difference there is our city residents will still be given the same opportunities as the county. So we'll cover that 3 hour. Let's just talk about that 3 hour period. We'll cover that 3 hour period. So you and I who live inside the city are afforded those opportunities at free of charge for that one period every week. And then on the city side, there's additional opportunities for us as citizens to utilize the facility, also free of charge. But for all citizens, it's all based on a fee. As Mr. Sewell pointed out before, there'll be a user fee outside of those allocated free of charge designations. So our citizens will have extra time outside of what the county citizens will have.
All right, one point I want to make. Did you have another question?
Yes. Has there been an application to the 90 million Defense Community Infrastructure Program with the Secretary Department of Defense?
Mayor, for this project?
Yes, Mr. Schultz looking to.
I'm not sure, Mayor. I couldn't confirm that or not.
We did our research on this, and to apply to that grant that you mentioned, it has to be a municipality-owned project. So in reference to the YMCA funding from that military defense fund, YMCA is owned by the city, as you know, and we looked into it, and because our aquatic facility will be owned by a nonprofit, we could not apply.
And we would still not own the pool. It would be owned by YMCA. Regardless of the amount of monies that we put in, it'll still be owned by the YMCA.
Yes, ma'am. And Mayor, one of the things about the agreement, once the final contract comes in, what we do have is, and we've talked about this before, we'll have ownership rights. It's kind of like a clawback. Should something happen, the city's investment for this 99-year period will give us rights on the facility. And as Mr. Ranglin's pointed out before, that may create some challenges for the YMCA, but it safeguards our investment, just like the county and the Board of Education, in the facilities. So we do have, I'm going to say, we do have some version of ownership rights with the property.
Security lien interest, as it is mentioned in the document. So we will not ever be able to sell it. We'll not able to borrow money. If there's a $400,000 filter or pump, that's where we'll all have to come back together. Now, trust me, from my business and the restaurant business, I'm going to buy the longest warranty that there is available so that we won't have to worry about that till, somewhere after the 10-year mark.
Thank you, Mr. Sewell. All right. One thing is, Dr. Washington was talking about there, we're very fortunate that we, through our cost savings and, accumulation, we did develop a sufficient fund balance that allows us to do this without a tax increase that would affect the citizens of Jacksonville. And mentioning the 4-cent property tax increase, from my personal perspective, I'm totally against raising property tax for that kind of a purpose, because when you do that, you're taxing one group to serve all, which I don't think is, I don't think that's appropriate. It's not fair. So it's just like when I had the road discussion come up in the campaign last time for mayor. You know, my opponent wanted to increase property tax to pay for street repairs, which everybody in Onslow County or the state of North Carolina, half the state of North Carolina and everybody else uses. Why should they be charged with that financial responsibility? So, you know, there's better ways to do this, and fortunately, we have a better way to do it because we have been able to accumulate funds, you know, without raising taxes through efficiency. So, you know, that's my spin on that. So, Mr. Warden, give you a chance to speak.
Thank you. I'm very pleased with the cooperation that has been exhibited here. I think none of the groups would have been able to bring this community asset to Onslow County except through cooperation, private partnership with the public entities. Thank you, Board of Commissioners, Ms. Carpenter, thank you for your stepping up, and I hope the Board of Education will do the same. This is a much-needed facility here in Onslow County, and this is an opportunity for the citizens to partake in something that they've wanted and wished for a long time. And I'm thankful and grateful for the cooperation that's gotten us to this point. So thank y'all.
Mr. Mayor, I think it's time to call a question on this matter.
Agreed. Everybody spoke. So this time I'd entertain a motion to adopt the Memorandum of Understanding.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there further comments? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
All right. Do you have something additional, Mr. Ray?
Thank you, Mayor. One update I want to give to the council and anyone that's watching. Since the council did approve the partnership with the Patino family to bring Old North State baseball to our community, they have started out and they're going to have an exhibition game on July 10th at 7 p.m. at Jack Amyette Park, the future home of the Jacksonville Ospreys. That's their formal name now moving forward. They're bringing the Brunswick Surf and Turf and the Kinston Wingmen to play an exhibition game. Free to everybody July 10th. I hope that everyone that's here will grab a lawn chair, come check out the game. We will have food trucks at the facility. Our parks team are going to prepare the field. We will not have all of our improvements ready, but we're going to have one heck of an event to have July 10th. So I encourage everyone listening to come check out what we're going to see next summer, and it was just an opportunity to be able to present that to council. You have this in your email, but if you need any more information, just shoot me a text and we'll get it over to you. Free game, everybody show up. The food will not be free, but we do plan to have 5 or 6 food trucks there for the event.
I didn't know if you added this or not, but please bring a lawn chair or something to sit on because our bleachers haven't arrived yet.
The new bleachers aren't going to be here, so there's only bleacher space for about 140 people. So if you're not the first 140, either bring money to buy a seat from one of those people or bring your own chair.
There you go. I'm looking forward to it. Going to be there. Okay. All right. Council will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Ray?